Welcome to Canadian Politics is Boring.
We're back. We've been ill. How are you, Jesse? You've been ill.
My throat still hurts a little bit.
I had a really bad cold. I caught off my kids because they don't care about personal space. They'll breathe in your mouth.
Yeah, I went to see a doctor, and he just kind of ranted about children being little germ disease factories for a good 5 minutes.
But you haven't got any kids, so which
Thank
children?
God, no.
Which children did you hang out with to get sick?
I'm trying to think.
Just
My nephews for a little bit, but that was a while ago. Hi, everyone.
Hi, I'm Reese.
I'm Jesse. Welcome to Canadian Politics is Boring. Welcome back. Oh, my throat. I can't be energetic. It hurts.
That's fine. I'll do the energy. Welcome back.
That's really good.
Thank you.
So it's after the election.
Yeah, we vanished because we were really run down. It was intense, and I was busy working, doing a load of stuff during the election, and then we were doing this election campaign. But
It was crazy, yeah.
But we're back, and I wanted to say, you can probably tell by Jesse, sounds like he's been drinking for 2 weeks, and now it's the first day without alcohol.
No, I wish. That's way more fun. That's what I used to do. I used to do that when I'd get sick, and it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
No, because I found out.
You used to get drunk when you were sick,
I used to get drunk when I was sick.
but that just dehydrates you.
Yeah, it wasn't smart.
Yeah.
So like when I would get like
Is this the same time you took up smoking to prove your willpower, only to end up smoking for 15 years?
no, that was
As a
before
distinct
that.
proof of a lack of willpower.
That's a true story, by the way. If you that's actually true. I have been quit from nicotine for about 6 years now, so it worked. It took 20 years, but it worked.
If any listeners think Jesse should take smoking back up, send us an email.
Yeah, that's where I get all my advice from. Is random emails
We had a
from our
lot of
listeners.
people reach out to us asking if we were okay because we hadn't posted an episode. And one listener...
Oh, I just wanted to finish my thing. What I was saying.
finish your thing.
So
Finish your
no, I
thing.
was just saying I used to, when I get like the flu, I'm like, fuck it, I'm already got the flu. So I just drink for a week to kind of numb the pain. And then I'd always end up getting like a bacterial lung infection. And I never really tied the two together. and so like I got
It's
a
just
cold. Like,
weaken your body for a
it does.
week.
And apparently
Yeah.
I read this like recently, like this past week, that like if you have a virus and your body is ill-equipped to deal with it, that it can actually open up doors for bacteria to come in and kind of play around. I'm like, oh shit. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know why I never thought of that.
In conclusion...
So
if
in
you
conclusion,
don't
like I had like
drink fluids, not vodka.
yeah, so I didn't drink. I know it sounds like I drank. I didn't drink for the past 2 weeks. For the first week, I had a cold, and I just ate pizza, and I was on keto. I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing this. I'm just having cereal and cookies and cake. And then I got like my throat just went crazy. I'm like, okay, fine. Lesson learned. Fucking lesson learned. So welcome to two middle-aged men talk about their.
I'm in my 30s. I'm a middle-aged. You
I
might
mean, it
be.
depends on when you die.
Yeah.
Really. Like,
Yeah, well, actually, I'm probably late Middle Ages. Anyway, three important things. Firstly,
comments.
ringtones. We are working on the ringtones.
Oh yes,
we'll
thank
get
you
them out to everyone.
Thank you, everyone who wrote us emails.
I've got a
who was on
spreadsheet.
He's got a spreadsheet.
I have a
Yes, like,
spreadsheet with all
people
in.
asked for them on the live stream. Although, if we don't know who you are when you ask for it on the live stream,
Remind
please
us.
Just email us and remind us.
Number two. Welcome new listeners. We had a lot of organic growth during the election.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to the show. Sorry you got into us and then we vanished.
So our show, for new listeners, our show is not the way it sounded during the election coverage, which is basically just insane, depressed man, that's me, talks about how much he hates our current political system, and Reese tries to convince me to vote. Our show is normally just making fun of. It's like it's more of a comedic jest based. So you don't come here for education. That's for damn
No,
sure.
I mean you might learn something, but you might want to cross reference it with facts.
As soon as you say that we've got new listeners, I get to work trying to get rid of them.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you.
And then there was a third thing I was going to say, which I can't remember. But one of our listeners did the Bigfoot marathon, sent us a picture of them posing with a statue of Bigfoot, and said, "I didn't see Jason Kenney anyway," which is a shame.
How do we not have a T-shirt for that yet?
We should work on it. We are working on it. We've got a bunch of stuff to catch up on: t-shirts, other things that I can't remember, loads of stuff. One thing and other things I can't remember. That's how much we got on our plate. So are you ready for a traditional style episode of Canadian Politics is Boring after over a month of election coverage.
Oh my God. So yeah, I was just going to say the election happened. I voted as I mentioned during the live stream. I voted Liberal, although I was debating between NDP and Liberal. In the end, I voted Liberal, and the Liberals won, and I don't really care. And that's kind of where I'm at. I didn't care before I voted. I don't care afterwards. I voted out of guilt and obligation. And as you had mentioned during one of our previous, episodes, that like our system is broken. We both can agree on that. And the only way that the system is not going to be broken is by bringing in enough swing voters in the future that it can put the fear into candidates to doing the right thing. And that's not going to happen until we convince way more people to start voting. And it's really difficult to do that when the system is as broken as it currently fucking is.
Well, do you know what, though? I screenshotted, somebody put together a what would have happened based on the vote, on the percentage of vote, if there was the proportional representation system that when Justin Trudeau,
what that is again.
So Justin Trudeau was.
I think I know what it is.
2015, his promise was it would be the last first past the post.
I do remember him saying that.
So essentially, if 30% vote Conservative and then the rest of the votes are like 20% Liberal, 15% NDP, and then broken up amongst the others,
right?
Winner takes all for the Conservatives. They win that seat. And all the other 70% of voters have no representation. But with proportional representation, they add up all of those votes that didn't win the main candidacy and provide, so everyone who votes, every party would get represented if they hit a certain amount of votes nationally. So
that's how it currently is.
No, it's not. So only one person can win every seat.
What?
So even though the Liberals had, they actually had the Conservatives won the popular vote in Canada, but because of how the first past the post system works, the Liberals won the most seats. But they actually worked it out, and this chart is interesting. So out of 676 seats, you would, in a proportional system, which doesn't exist, which is what people want, you'd have 339 seats to win a majority. So if the election had been decided on the popular vote, the Conservatives would have had
a majority government.
No, they wouldn't have. They would have had 234 seats. The Liberals would have had 229. The NDP would have had 125 seats. Bloc Québécois would have had 52. PPC would have had 33. The Green Party would have had 2. And then somebody else would have had 1. MAV, don't know what that is, which would mean the only people who could form a government would be the Liberals and the NDP teaming up together. That would be the only way for a government to be formed.
Okay.
So there would be no majority. They would all have to work together to get anything done. So proportional representation would force political parties to have to team up together.
I'm falling asleep already, man.
Anyway, so but everyone complains about how the election is now. But this episode is called "Elections Used to Be More Crap."
Okay,
because actually, although everyone complains about how this one happened, elections used to be insanely corrupt and chaotic.
Used to be? Are we talking about in Canada or everywhere else? Because everywhere else, it's still insanely corrupt.
In Canada, used to be very different.
I still would debate that it is very corrupt. Like, are big corporations allowed to, I forget what it's called, lobbying or whatever, we're basically just paying?
I think it's called Yobbian, is a soft L.
It's a soft L, right. Yobbian. Yeah. If they're still allowed to do that, then that's straight up corruption. It's legal corruption, but it's corruption.
But not all lobby groups are evil corporations. Some of them are nice corporations, and some of them are charities.
No.
Or collections of farmers, for instance. Lots of people lobby.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
But most of them are.
Look how convinced I am.
But most of them are just businesses with lots of money who want legislation and tax breaks that suit them. So anyway.
Fucking hell.
So did you know?
I didn't.
Good.
All right.
End of episode.
That's it. We're done. Thanks.
That's our show. Did you know? No, I don't. Okay. Bye. So when the British established the colonies in what is now Canada, they did allow people to have elected assemblies, but they had no real power. And the governors that were appointed by the British government in London were really the people who were in power.
It was a facade.
It was just tokenism to let people go, oh, yeah, I voted. Well done. What does the governor want to do? Whatever the hell he wants.
That's hilarious. How did they get away with that?
Because it was a colony, essentially. They needed London to send supplies and more people all the time, so they didn't really have a choice. But then obviously as Canada got more established and stole more land, it's true. In 1848, Nova Scotia won responsible government for the first time. So the first government elected in Canada was in Nova Scotia, and the representatives had the most power for the first time ever.
Where was this?
Nova Scotia, where we are right now.
Right.
In 1848, not 1948.
1848. Okay.
And more of the colonies followed suit after that. They were like, hey, we want real power like Nova Scotia to make decisions about our own lives and society.
This story better get really fucking crazy real soon.
It's about to get sexy crazy.
All right. I was going to say, because you said it was going to go back to the way our show normally is, which is about like insane stories.
I'm going to start talking about corruption. Do you like corruption?
I mean, it depends on
Does that get your motor running?
I mean, watching Donald Trump for several years was
great.
It was crazy entertainment, if anything. Can you pour me some water into my microphone?
Can I pour into the glass by the microphone?
Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah.
There we go. So, little ASMR. So, in 1793, in Kings County, Nova Scotia, one of the people being elected, a sitting member, would get voters to vote for him by selling land to them for £5.
Okay.
So you're selling cheap land to people and go, hey, I'll sell you land if you vote for me. Which is pretty corrupt.
It's a good tactic.
And a candidate in 1850 in St. John, New Brunswick, gained 250 votes by dividing a swamp fraudulently into 250 separate plots of land. And
a swamp?
A swamp, yeah. So, and even the dead, apparently the Journal de Quebec reported in 1858 that votes had been cast in the names of the living and the dead of all nations.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's funny.
But basically, the reason they were selling land to people or giving land away was you could only vote if you owned land at that stage.
Oh.
So you had to be a white male landowner to vote.
Oh, interesting.
So these elections were not representative and were also, So if you sold...
You had to be white, male, and a landowner.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm gonna give you this piece of swamp so you can vote for me. And that swamp's yours forever. Thanks.
That's actually really clever.
Yeah,
I don't know how corrupt that is. I mean, if there was only so many eligible voters out there.
Yeah, but also so you had to own land. So imagine at that period, the only people that owned land were rich people.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Like if you wanted to get voted in and your chances
it's a smart way of playing the system.
It's a smart play. Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like if you've got plenty of land to give away.
Yeah. Fucking A.
Or to take off other people and then give away, as was the tradition of the time.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So, one election lasted 6 weeks. And so that's not the campaign. That was just the voting day lasted 6 weeks.
Jesus.
In one, 2 men were declared for a single seat. And in Canada, men were elected, like 2 or 3 people would be elected to the same seat because they would argue.
Why would it take 6 weeks to count?
Because it was the 1800s.
And one person was counting ballots, the other person was counting the amount of times the voters saw the color green. Like
everyone was dying of scurvy.
Right, that's more like it. Yeah,
yeah.
There's a count if they're still dead, but they're white and landowners.
So, and the other thing as well was voter intimidation was a real thing. So until until 1874,
we got to do that in an episode of Manitoba Nights.
Yeah, voter intimidation.
Well, yeah, we're Biddle and Hardfather, Housefather, Biddle and Housefather go.
Maybe that's what Housefather's dad is called, Hardfather.
Hardfather's,
and he's got a bad relationship with his dad
because they have different
one of the reasons
names.
why he's so violent with criminals.
I like it.
Yeah,
no, they can go and intimidate people into voting. I think that's
this week's mission is to intimidate people to vote. So until 1874.
Oh, that's a little inside joke for any new listeners.
I've said until 1874 twice now, and then you've
I'm
interrupted.
trying to get you to say it at least 5 times.
At least 5 times. There you go.
No, that was like the worst dad joke ever.
I got 3 kids. I'm like the triple dad.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Please continue. Oh God.
So you know when you voted,
yeah,
you went in.
It was a glorious day.
You ticked the box and you left
in a huff.
Yeah.
Stormed out of there.
Before 18...
Flipped a table on my way out.
There you go. Punched a nice old lady counting ballots.
Yep.
Classic Jesse.
Edna. Right in the throat.
That's how elections used to be. So, so before 1874, all voters had to announce their vote publicly.
And then punch an old lady in the throat?
No, so you had to vote and then say out loud who you voted for. So everyone knew. So if you were... Because the chances are the landowner might have been your boss and you might think he's a dick. But if you voted against him, you would have to declare it for him to know.
And could you get legally fired for voting?
This is like the 19th century. They didn't give a shit. You could just lose your job.
I suppose, yeah.
So you had to vote for whoever was employing you.
Well, hold on. How did you vote? Like, was it
the same?
Was it still on a ballot?
Sometimes you just had to say it out loud. You go into a room and go, Dave. So
just Dave.
Yeah. And
so there was, okay, I was going to say, because you could write it on a ballot.
Yeah.
And then just tell your boss you voted for him.
No. It was like publicly like declared and confirmed who you'd voted for out loud.
Oh, wow.
And they would hire gangs.
And that process took 6 weeks?
No, that was one instance. It took 6 weeks. But they would hire gangs of bullies to intimidate people into making sure they voted for a particular person. So if you had to declare out loudly and there was a gang of bullies stood there waiting to give you like an 1800s wedgie, then
I'm trying to picture this. So this like roving gang of political bullies.
Yeah.
Okay, they were hired not to get money out of people, not to extort
make them
money,
vote.
to make them vote. And by voting, we mean just stand there and say out loud a
Dave.
name. Yeah, and if you just yell a name out, we won't punch you in the face. That's their job.
That was their job. What's your job? I'm a freelance roving voting bully.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They had a great Instagram strategy for marketing as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so like, what if they were being pulled in 2 different directions, being paid by 2 different
I think you're starting to inception the voting bullies. It was very simple. Dave would pay them £50 to go and intimidate people to do it that way, and then they would.
What if Hubert down the street paid them $60?
Well, that's what would happen. Someone else would hire other bullies, and they'd fight. And
it's
also,
like gangs in New York, but
yeah,
to vote.
exactly. And then other times they were giving away free booze to get people to vote. So maybe Dave gave you a bunch of free booze, and then you go to vote, and Hubert's bullies are there, and Dave's bullies are there, and you're drunk, and they're like, vote for us. You're like, I don't know what's going on, and then everyone just starts fighting.
Is that what the head bully sounds like?
No,
I don't know what's going on.
That was the drunken
vote
voter.
For me. Oh, that's the drunken voter. Okay.
Voter. So this combination of gangs and drunkenness meant that violence at polling stations was commonplace, and at least 20 people died in 20 different election riots before 1865. No one knows how many were injured. So
wow.
So voting was a bit different. I know you're complaining about it.
No, okay, look. if voting was like that today, I'd be so excited.
You just go down there wearing like a hockey helmet, just maybe like some brass knuckles,
like a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it.
Exactly,
right, and just wait for the roving gangs of drunken bullies to come and convince me to just say out loud who I'm voting for right in front of them, and then off they go to the next person. And this sounds like an early failed version of the Purge. Okay,
well, that's essentially what.
Hey, you, and this like team of 30 thugs comes up to me. Who are you voting for? I don't know. But also, who should I vote for? You should vote for Dave. I vote for Dave. Okay, and then off they go. And then the next drunken, who are you voting for? I'm voting for Steve Bob. That sounds hilarious.
now it's time for a break where you'll be regaled with wonderful products like snortable mustard, hair mousse suppositories, and all of the wonderful innovations brought to you by capitalism, a superior system to communism. But don't forget that also these were white landowners. They were the only people going to vote.
Yeah,
and
well,
then,
they can sound like that.
No, I know, but my point is that, so vote, essentially, Democrat, when you look at the history of Canada, you look at democratic elections and you go, oh, they voted for Johnny MacDonald. Oh, they voted for this person and this person. All you got is a bunch of people fighting and getting drunk, and they're only like a very small percent of the population. So there was literally no democracy for everybody else. And then every 4 years, there'd be drunk fights somewhere in the city with bullies punching each other. Maybe some people would die. That was democracy.
That's amazing.
And meanwhile, everyone else had to go, oh, I guess this is just life.
And I honestly kind of feel like we have an evolved version of that today.
Yeah, it's evolved. It's not
evolved version of that.
It's slightly closer to perfection.
Instead of
roving
gangs of drunken bullies, we've got things like the fucking
TikTok.
Well, I was going to say like the debates, which are pointless and ridiculous.
It would be better if there were gangs of bullies with them.
I mean,
and at the end of the debate, they were like,
amazing.
Now the fight begins.
Oh my God, can you imagine how many people would watch that?
So Justin rips his top off. Aaron has just got a flick knife in his sock. That kind of stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
Justin Singh opens up his coat.
Justin Singh.
No. I keep forgetting his
Jugmeat.
Jugmeat. It's just because he's got such a cool first name. I keep forgetting it. Yeah. Jugmeat rips open his coat and throws angry dogs out.
Angry dogs under his coat.
Yeah.
So this is a quote. It's a description of an election brawl that broke out at a Montreal polling station in 1820.
A what? Sorry.
Montreal polling station in 1820.
And there was a riot broke out.
Yeah, an election brawl they called it.
Okay.
Passions ran so high that a terrible fight broke out. Punches and every other offensive and defensive tactic were employed. In the blink of an eye, table legs were turned into swords and the rest into shields. The faces of many and the bodies of nearly all attested to the doggedness of the fighting. There's election night.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is 1820?
That was 1820, yeah.
How long was this system of voting going, had this been going on for until some genius kind of, it dawned on them to why don't we just get them to write their vote down secretly?
Well, I think it was done. Somebody in the UK did it, and then
who did you vote for? Well, none of your business. You'll find out soon.
I think somebody in the UK did it, and then somebody in Belgium did it, and it was introduced. So in 1870,
honestly,
so
this doesn't feel like it would take a room full of high IQ geniuses to figure that out. So how do we stop the drunken brawls when people are screaming who they're voting for at the top of their lungs? Geez, that seems like an impossible question to answer.
But just remember, Johnny MacDonald won his elections with that system. It was he did one again afterwards, but in 1874 he lost to somebody, to the Liberals, standing on the candidacy of let's do secret ballots so that you don't have to declare who you voted for. So the ultimate drunken prime minister,
he really was.
He was winning through those drunken.
Well, he was
rolls.
charismatic, right? He knew how to have a party, and in the moment,
he knew how to have a party.
Well, yeah,
he just knew how to get everyone hammered.
He did.
And election night was, let's get everyone as drunk as I can be,
and then convince them to vote for me.
Exactly. Yeah. In 1874, Canada introduced the secret ballot, so now people voted privately. It made it harder to intimidate voters or buy their vote because you never knew who they voted for. So British Columbia did it first, and then Ontario, followed by Quebec and Nova Scotia.
There's no way there wasn't corruption involved in that. There's no bloody way that they didn't collect a huge amount of secret ballots and then just declared who they wanted the winner to be anyway.
Well, Prince Edward Island didn't introduce it until 1913.
Oh, wow. They still had drunken brawls in the early 1900s?
Oh, no, they introduced her in 1877 and then changed their mind in 1879, and then it was not adopted permanently until 1913.
So they were still having the drunken roving gangs as influence.
I don't know if they're the drunk roving gangs, but they still had to say who.
I mean, it's PEI, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like a long-standing tradition with it.
So women and indigenous people were
We
completely.
love you, PEI.
We do. And your potatoes. And your red sand. It's like being on Mars, but in a good way. Women and indigenous people were almost completely excluded from voting, and very few minorities were represented. Initially, Roman Catholics were also banned from voting. And most restrictions on Catholics were removed by the 1830s. Enslaved people were similarly banned from voting until 1834, when it was abolished.
Hold on, which was abolished? Allowing slaves to vote or slavery?
Slavery was abolished. And
Okay, because
then they could vote.
if it was just abolishing the fact that slaves couldn't vote, I'm guessing I'd know what they'd vote for pretty quickly.
Who?
Anyone who said that slavery was going to be abolished.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I thought you were going to like say a name of somebody or a party, and I was like, oh, go on.
I'm not that educated.
Okay.
God, I get all my political shit from you.
They
Come
would
on now.
vote for people who didn't like slavery. That was your conclusion. Do you know? I bet I know who they wouldn't vote for. People who wanted slavery. There we go. Who says you don't learn anything on this podcast?
Me.
So in many places, the law also blocked people.
I'm tired.
So in many places, the law also blocked poor people from voting because you had to own a certain amount of land or property.
Right, we going full circle to the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, so basically, if you were a woman, if you were Roman Catholic, if you were black, indigenous, or just didn't have much money, you weren't included in democracy. And that changed in the 1870s, so labor activists ended the property requirements to vote in. So as the population grew, more people got to vote, more people were included in voting, and because it became so expensive to buy people's votes, so bribing people, like, here's loads of alcohol, vote for me, it became less popular as the population grew. They were like, oh, fuck it, I can't afford that.
That's funny.
When the property owned, so I said only a small percentage could vote. When the property laws were in, it was only 20%. In British Columbia, it was as low as 11%.
What was?
Only 20% of Canadians were landowners who could vote.
Oh, I see.
So property requirements were eliminated completely in 1920, but
So why property owners only? Why did that rule?
Because they were like, if you own land, then you own part of this country, so you get to vote. It was just to stop people they didn't want voting, like poor people.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're going to vote for people who want to tax rich people.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like, we're not going to give power away.
Those assholes.
Again, though, coming back to Prince Edward Island, we love you and your red sand and your potatoes, but they didn't get rid of
I think that's their official slogan.
Yeah, but they kept the property requirement for elections until 1964.
They what?
They kept the requirement of property. You had to be a property owner to vote in Prince Edward Island as late as 1964.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. PEI, man.
In
What's
fact,
going on?
in PEI, if you owned enough property in 2 or more electoral districts, you got to vote more than once.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
So the more property you own, the more votes you get?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Up till 1964.
Up till 1964.
That's fucking nuts. Holy shit.
So, a lot of people are unhappy with this election, but my argument is we're on a journey. And we've come, a lot of people have shed a lot of blood on this journey, and we're a lot closer to a better endpoint just by the fact that there are no longer bullies waiting for you in the voting booth.
I think we're it's like a pressure pot waiting to explode. We're so much closer to a purge happening. It's like, you have no idea, man.
Jesse wants an old school election.
The fact that the popular vote was won by the Conservatives
For the second election in a row.
is terrifying. But as other people pointed out, that's the right. The right consists of the Conservatives and a tiny portion of the PPC. The left, the center and left, is everybody else.
Yeah.
And we've divided ourselves. We fight amongst ourselves so much and so often that we just keep dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing the left. If it was like the States, where it's a 2-system party, which is broken, by the way, and I don't recommend it, okay? But if it were like that, The Conservatives would never win, even with the popular vote.
It's pretty much 40% Conservative, 60% everything else. That tends to be how the broke. If you ignore party lines and look at like, oh, they sound.
And
do you know how many people voted PPC?
More than should have.
800,000 Canadians voted for semen retention.
Jesus
and
Christ.
Those kind of candidates.
Well, I think what's happening, and not just with the PPC voting, but with every voting, is like, they advertise very specific things to very specific groups of people who they know are looking for something, right?
Yeah.
Like we're going to advertise our campaign, whoever it is, not just the PPC. We're going to advertise our campaign in downtown Edmonton, and we're going to really push hard the fact that we're gonna increase jobs for oil business, big oil, in downtown Edmonton, and we know that is something that people are looking for in downtown. I'm just making this up. Obviously, I have no idea what the fuck people are looking for in downtown Edmonton. But we know that that's what
Probably
they want.
A nice Boston pizza.
Right, yeah. We know that's a thing that they want. So our entire campaign in that location is going to be that. But we are not going to tell them all the horrible things like, oh, by the way, we're really racist. Exactly. I think I'm guessing
they campaign on a single issue.
Yeah, so I'm guessing people are voting like kind of like offhand, like, oh yeah, I got to vote. Oh, right, I heard they were going to do that thing, not knowing all the other horrible things they're going to do. They're just kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll vote for them.
Essentially, though, you've got somebody who was a very mainstream conservative leadership candidate in Maxime Bernier has united all of these far right and kind of fringe factions. So what you've got is all those votes would have broken down in 10,000 for this one, 100,000 for that one. He's unified like a lot of fringe people who never had a home, and people who are more hard right than who don't like. A lot of people think the Conservative Party in Canada is too moderate now, and so they wanted a more hard right conservative stance.
My friend actually hopes, I think I mentioned this before, my friend actually hopes that the PPC grows in popularity. Not so much that they could become as big as the Conservative Party, but grows enough to the point where it is essentially splitting the right.
I had the same thought 10 years ago with the UK Independence Party. I thought it would break the right up in the UK, so the Conservative Party in the UK would lose votes to UKIP, and it would mean that Labour could win, or some kind of Liberal Democrat coalition.
I'm guessing it didn't work out.
What happened was it morphed the Conservative Party into something that now today resembles UKIP. So it just made a large mainstream party disfigured, and they were so scared of losing that core vote.
Hold on, say this again. What happened?
I'm
afraid I'm actually learning something.
So UKIP was like hard right, leave the EU, anti-immigration, all these things. And the Conservative Party was kind of like centre right. They were like David Cameron, the Prime Minister, described UKIP as fruitcakes and loonies. But eventually what happened was the Conservative Party they're
so kind over there. Even when they're bullying other political parties, they call them cartoon names.
I know,
like
exactly.
Cakes and loonies.
What a buffoon!
Yeah.
And what happened was that party actually just warped. That kind of that mainstream party was the Conservative Party that was kind of centre right and mainstream was so terrified of losing the core right vote. They became disfigured by UKIP, making UKIP not need to exist anymore because the Conservative Party actually ended up resembling it so much.
They
dragged them further right.
I don't understand.
Because they assumed they always had that core vote safe. And when this new party that was further right to them came, they then moved from the centre there to make sure they shored up that vote.
Kind of like a big business buying small businesses around them to get rid of competition, sort of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if the PPC is like, "Hey, we're gonna give more oil jobs and be more racist," and everyone's like, "Yay, more oil jobs!"
Exactly.
And then like the conservative government was like, "Oh shit, they're getting popular. We should also start saying that we believe in what the PPC believes in to get those voters to vote for us."
Exactly. So what happens is
that just makes the conservative government literally more dangerous.
Yeah, because in 5 years' time, if the PPC is growing, they need to shore up their further right votes. So they will need to adopt that, and they'll move further from the center. I'm not saying it'll happen here. That's what happened in the UK, because I had the exact, I had the exact same thought process.
Oh shit! No, that makes a lot
so
of
what
sense.
it can actually do is morph that party into something else. And if you don't have a proportional representation system, and you do have a first past the post system where minority parties can win a majority government, which happens in Canada and has happened in the UK, then you end up with essentially in the UK you've ended up with a more far right conservative government in power, because they've consolidated the right, essentially.
Jesus. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
So I don't want to scare you. I don't want to destroy all your hope, but I've been here and I've seen this. So.
Yeah, this show is normally about Reese sharing with insane stories like Camp 20, where the you know, and now it's gotten really, ever since the election happened, it's gotten dark.
It is dark
and depressing and trying to scare me. And he doesn't have to work hard to scare me. Let me tell you, just the shit that I see on our own country.
You should have been here earlier when I found the dead mouse.
All right, yeah, tell me the story.
I found a dead mouse. That's pretty much it.
It's a great story.
My room was smelling, my edit room. And I was like, why does my edit room smell? And then I was like, it smells like... So in my old office in Wales, we were by a river and there were a lot of rats. And my dog used to catch them. But there was a brown stain on the ceiling that kept growing and it smelt. And we were like, what is that? And we cut a hole in the ceiling to check it out. It was just a decomposing rat.
That's disgusting.
So when I was in the room, I was like, this smells like some kind of festering rodent. And it was a mouse. It died.
Yay.
So at the end, that was my story.
You need an office cat, man.
I brought my dog in, Rosie.
Did that help?
No, she's
a cute
she
little
just wants to be everyone's friend.
Golden retriever puppy, man.
Yeah, she's like a Disney dog. Everyone is her friend.
So that was an interesting. So I'm sorry, I'm low energy. Like I said, I can't really talk very energetic or emphatically because my throat still hurts.
You haven't peaked once. It's great.
So it's, as Reese mentioned to me, we seem to have my character on the show has evolved from someone who doesn't care and doesn't vote in elections in Canada because he doesn't care, and has evolved into, I don't know if evolved is the right word, but the layers
like a Pokemon.
The layers have been peeled back to reveal that I do vote. I just don't care about voting, and the reason I don't care about voting is not because I don't give a shit, but because the system is quite clearly broken on so many levels, and I don't think what we do matters in the end. I think they're just going to do whatever the fuck they feel like. Like when Trudeau, during this election, Trudeau, who I voted for, I mean, I voted for his party. I didn't vote for Trudeau directly because you can't. But like he promised, like, yeah, we're going to plant 2 million trees if you vote me in. Do you know what he promised years ago when he was running to get voted in?
To plant 5 million trees.
Or was it 5 million?
I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to vote 2 million. We're going to plant 2 million trees. He said the exact same fucking thing, which I read somewhere, by the way, during the first time he said that's the amount of trees that are planted every year in Canada anyway. Like most of they have to plant is such an insane amount of trees because a lot of them die, and 2 million during the year is like, that's kind of average. So they're just like, what can we do that sounds good? I don't know. Let's just say we plant 2 million trees, and then they didn't fucking do it anyway. Like just. Anyway, these are the people I voted for. This is how excited I am to be part of this fucking system.
The Day for Truth and Reconciliation that he just gave up. I think he's given up.
Oh, by the way, the Day of Truth and Reconciliation fell on a holiday that was trying to make headway, and I had it in my calendar, and I was excited to do something with you about it.
International Podcast Day.
International Podcast Day. You know that,
yeah. But you can't. I've got a podcast business, but you can't go on the Day of Truth and Reconciliation.
I know.
And go,
Happy Podcast Day.
I know, right? So that's incredibly,
yeah. So instead, I was like, that's an unfortunate timing.
Yeah, I think in Canada, International Podcast Day has to be a different day.
We could have our own Canadian like instead of like fuck the world, it's not international podcast, it's Canadian podcast.
International Canadian Podcast Day.
That doesn't make any sense grammatically. Of all the Canadas of the world.
Exactly. There's one here and there's one at Epcot.
So before we go, I was at a party.
No, you weren't.
I was. It was a gathering. It was a gathering. I don't want to say like it was a massive 1,000 people party or something. It was a backyard gathering a couple weeks back. And I was like, I'm not used to socializing, and like everyone here is double vax, and I was just like, I don't know how to talk to people because I haven't really talked to people in 2 years because of the pandemic. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna try to socialize. And I talked to this guy, and he's like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I've got a podcast. And he's like, what's the name of it? I was like, it's called Canadian Politics is Boring. And he freaked out, and he must have hugged me like 7 times because he listens to 2 podcasts, and we are one of them. And
Is Joe Rogan the other one?
God, I hope so. And
What a juxtaposition.
And like, so like how he freaked out because like how cool is that? And he was 23 years old and a conservative. And we had a really interesting talk about how labels are kind of killing everybody. Like what if I agree with a platform from the Conservatives and part of the platform from the Liberals and part of the platform the MDP? What does that make me? Do I have to have a label in order to move forward? Like, and we both were talking about like how interesting it would be to hear the perspective of a young conservative. I forget the guy's name. Maybe it's Corey. Honestly, I'm so sorry. I know you listen. You met me at the party, man, and I gave you the email address, and you showed me that you sent me the email, and it didn't come through. So we were like, there was a lot of alcohol involved, at least on your end.
Thanks for listening to the show, maybe Corey.
I don't think it was. It might have been. I don't fucking remember your name. I
Mystery barbecue.
I forget
friend.
your name. Email us. CanadianPoliticsIsBoring@gmail.com. Say hi. You know who I am. We talked to the party. You hugged me like 7 times. We'd love to hear your perspective. Anyway, I wanted to shout that out because that was a cool. Yeah. How cool is that? That's
just
really
to be recognized by someone is awesome.
Right?
So.
Yeah. That was amazing.
So, thanks for listening, everyone. And
call to action.
Call to action is don't go to Instagram. Go to Instagram.
What?
Sorry?
Don't go to Instagram. Go to Instagram.
Don't go to Instagram. Just look it up on your phone. It's not a place or something.
Oh, you're really reaching. Okay,
I know.
That's great.
Actually, I do want to talk about. I want to plug something.
Yeah, okay.
So I just worked on an amazing new podcast called "Somebody Must Say These Things," which is about domestic violence in rural Canada.
Oh,
and
sounds
it's
dark.
I'm not on there because I don't think my opinion's valid on this topic, but I did help produce it. And all of the voices are women who were either victims of or are working in supporting people who are victims of domestic violence. And it's called Somebody Must Say These Things. And it is on all the podcast platforms if you search for it. I'll also post it on our Instagram.
Somebody Must Say These Things.
Somebody Must Say These Things.
Wow, like what an amazingly important podcast idea.
Not like this one.
What?
Not like our podcast. You said it's amazingly important. Not like ours.
Yeah, not like ours. I was gonna, yeah.
But so, and as a man, because like 80% of domestic violence is against women, as a man who was, even when I was a kid, was never affected by these issues, it is crazy when you hear the stuff that happens and it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, it affects women of all socioeconomic backgrounds. They might look wealthy and well-to-do. They can still be victims trapped in their own homes. So it just blew my mind. There's this whole other world that exists around us that like we're statistically privileged to never experience. So yeah.
Way to bring the energy in the room down, man.
I just wanted to share it's important.
It's very important.
It's very important. So somebody must say these things. Listen to the show.
Okay.
There's a trigger warning at the start though. Some of the stories are pretty dark but it's all real. So
I got nothing, man. That's depressing.
Yeah.
And important.
And depressing yet important.
Yeah. So if you
like
have
everything that's important.
If you have too much fun on our show and you're just like, God, I feel too good right now about myself and my privilege and my place in this world. I need to be taking a peg down.
Yeah. Then, and it would also educate. It's good. It doesn't hurt to learn something. Also, the other science show I do, which I do the voiceover for. I don't know anything about science.
Just bragging about shit he does.
We did an episode.
You produced the other podcast, didn't you?
I did. I produced the other podcast, but I'm the host of Beyond Research, the science show we do research in Nova Scotia, and I try upcycled food live on air. If you want to listen to me trying some upcycled food, I
kind of do actually. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you can sandwich them. So you just listen to this episode. Thank you for listening. You can then go and listen to a very sobering, important podcast called
Somebody Must Say These Things.
Somebody Must Say These Things. And then after you have learned educated yourself and gotten quite depressed, then you can go back and listen to a third podcast called
Beyond Research.
Beyond Research,
where I, Reese, a Welsh person, am the voice of Canadian science to confuse everyone.
There you go. There's your day.
There we go.
Bye. We mapped it out for you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Don't go to work. Just lie in bed and listen to those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for coming back and sticking us in your ear holes, all snug and warm and squishy right in there, just the way you like it. I hope you like my sexy throat. I hope you like
voice. My sexy throat.
My sexy throat makes my voice sound sexy.
Yeah, you should put that on your Tinder profile. I have a sexy throat.
I have a sexy throat. I literally I can't speak loudly or else my throat hurts.
Yay, says the rest of the world.
Okay.
Right, bye.
Bye.